Why did you decide to speak up now? What was kind of that final straw for you?
When I started running the 400 and when my sister especially started showing interest in doing track, because I'm an oldest sister, I'm the oldest of three, and my younger sister now is a 400 runner for the middle school team. And so when I realized that she would have to potentially face this in the future, I was just not ready. I didn't want her to have to deal with this, so I decided to speak up and use my voice.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining the Gains for Girls podcast. As always, very glad that you're here. You can follow all things Gains for Girls at youtube.com/OutKick. That's where you can subscribe. You never want to miss an episode. We always appreciate your support. Send them far and wide. We have a super interesting conversation today with a young woman who has been impacted directly at the hands of these progressive, that's the word they use, these progressive, really regressive policies that have ultimately been detrimental to women, to women's rights, to equal opportunities, to safety in our sports and beyond. So very excited for that. But before we talk to this amazing athlete, we are going to tell you about today's sponsor. It is Cozy Earth. There is nothing like waking up wrapped in Cozy Earth, from their pajamas to the sheets. Buttery soft, breathable. Their products don't just help me sleep better. They have really transformed how both me and my husband, how we unwind, how we rest, how we recharge. You can probably picture it, slipping into bed. You instantly feel calmer. It's really, Cozy Earth has really turned our home into like this true sanctuary where luxury meets comfort in every single thread. I made the switch. Of course, my husband has also made the switch with me. He loves it. My parents have too. They say their nighttime routine has changed completely. They sleep deeper. You wake up more refreshed. You feel spoiled every single night and morning. So highly, highly recommend. If you have been thinking about upgrading, it is the time to do it. Cooler sleep, unmatched softness, the feeling of everyday luxury, and you deserve it. They have a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty on all bedding, so there is no risk, but you're not going to want to return anything you buy from Cozy Earth anyways. So you can go to CozyEarth.com. You can use my code GAINS, GAINES, for 40% off. 40% off is no joke. So check them out. Again, you won't regret it. Today we are talking to Soleil Hoefer. She is a track and soccer star. She's a senior at Prosser High School in Washington State. Of course, this is one of those usual suspects, the state of Washington, like California, like Oregon, like Massachusetts, like Maine. I'm sure you remember that conversation, the interaction that the whole country got to witness between Governor Mills of Maine and Donald Trump. Now the Department of Justice is involved there and withholding, or at least threatening to withhold, federal funds from the state of Maine until they comply with federal law, that federal law being Title IX. Soleil's athletic excellence has earned her a college scholarship, so she's going to continue her athletic career beyond high school. Really incredible stuff. But now we've got in touch because I noticed she filed a complaint with Alliance Defending Freedom, which they've been on. Several of their plaintiffs, several of their attorneys have been on the Gains for Girls podcast several times. They do incredible work. But they filed this complaint on behalf of high school athletes, two of them, two girls, Soleil being one of them, who argue that the state of Washington's policies, specifically the WIAA's policies, it violates, these male athletes being able to compete based on gender identity. It violates Title IX by denying equal opportunity to female athletes. It's so sad to me that young girls have to explain this to education and sports officials. So they've asked the Department of Education to investigate and require the WIAA to base participation on sex, not gender identity. Crazy concept. Check out this conversation here with Soleil and her attorney from Alliance Defending Freedom, Kate. Well, thank you both for joining the Gains for Girls podcast. Very, very excited for this conversation with Soleil, a track and field athlete, and her attorney with ADF, who we have had several both plaintiffs, attorneys on with ADF in the past. Really, really appreciate what you guys are doing. And I just love you guys as an organization. So thank you for everything. Soleil, before we talk about your advocacy and your passion to, of course, keep women's sports only for women, can you just give us a little background on you, your track and field career, and what the sport means to you?
Oh, as you know, my name is Soleil Hoefer. I'm a dual sport athlete, and I started track my freshman year. And since freshman year, I've been very versatile. I do up to 9 events. Now I have added almost half of all the events available in track on my plate. So I'm very active in the sport. I have a lot of different events I like to participate in, and this year I started running the 400, which is when I started advocating for all of this.
Yeah, incredible. What other sport do you play?
I play soccer.
Amazing. And you have plans post high school to continue your athletic career, that's right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, amazing. I know how much time you dedicate to be able to really compete and succeed at the highest level. So it's no joke. You're training for hours and hours and hours. You're making sacrifices that other students may not have to make, right? That could impact your social life. It impacts time you spend with your family, your academics, even. So it's really no joke. You mentioned your advocacy. Will you just let us know when the first time you learned of this issue, and I guess how you felt when you found out you would have to be racing a boy?
So the first time I learned about this issue was last year at a Cheney invite, and one of my teammates had to run against this male athlete. And then again, I saw him run at state and run the 400 and win by almost a whole 3 seconds. And I got to see the reaction of the girl who got second place. I saw her mom, and her mom was so distraught. And this year I started running the 400, and that's when I learned that I would potentially, at the end of postseason, have to run against this male athlete.
Wow. Yeah, you mentioned the impact on the girls, and it's something that I don't think is reported on enough, or at least accurately. We talk a lot, the media coverage that this issue tends to get. Unfortunately, it focuses on the boy oftentimes, which I don't believe that to be fair to the real. I don't like the word victims because, again, I don't look at you guys as victims necessarily, but it's the women who are being impacted. Therefore, I believe it's their voices who deserve to be heard. It's their names and their faces who deserve to be shown. And you mentioned the parents too, which that's something that I saw when was an issue that I faced. So many parents, moms who were in tears watching their daughters really be obliterated in a sport that they worked their whole life to achieve at. And you mentioned 3 seconds too. Like that's a large margin in your sport.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is very much.
Yeah, a sport that's measured down to the 100th of a second. 3 seconds is pretty significant. So I guess, before I go to Kay and ask a few questions, why did you decide to speak up now? What was kind of that final straw for you?
The final straw for me was when I started running the 400, and when my sister especially started showing interest in doing track, because I'm an oldest sister. I'm the oldest of 3, and my younger sister now is a 400 runner for the middle school team. And so when I realized that she would have to potentially face this in the future, I was just not ready. I didn't want her to have to deal with this, so I decided to speak up and use my voice and just hopefully prevent this from happening to all of the younger female athletes that are going to have to come up and deal with something like this.
Yeah, well, that's an incredible perspective. And your younger sister has a role model in you. I'm sure she looks up to you. Kate, can you just tell us about some of the policies that the state of Washington, and I mean, there are several states at this point, but specifically the state of Washington, the policies they're enforcing that allows for this to continue to happen?
Well, Washington State has a policy both with the athletic organization that runs these sports and at the state level of organizing sports by gender identity rather than sex. And that's something that we've seen happen in a number of states across the country. There's been lots of litigation on this issue over the last 5 years even. But now we're in a spot where we have a federal administration that's very concerned about this issue, as they should be. This is about equal opportunities for women in sports. And you can see Soleil's heart here. All she's worked for, the benefits that she's getting from being part of a team, from working hard, from being able to show herself that she can achieve these things, cut seconds off of her time. And all that's taken away from her and her teammates when you allow male students who have a larger heart, lungs, bigger muscles, better bone density, all these things that make them faster and better equipped in these sports. They're crushing the opportunities for these women to gain in this important activity.
I bet when you were in grad school, you never imagined you would have to, publicly declare in court settings, oftentimes, the physical differences between boys and girls. Totally crazy. So what actions did you guys take to ultimately defend Soleil and girls across the state of Washington and really across the rest of the nation?
Well, Alliance Defending Freedom has been involved in this issue for the last 5 years, bringing cases on this issue in Connecticut and other states. So this is something that has been a priority for us. But seeing that this is now a priority for the federal administration, that gave us an opportunity to file what's called an OCR complaint. It's a way for us to bring Soleil's issue to the government to say, you need to investigate the policies in Washington and ensure that they are aligned with federal law, which they are not. And so we filed this letter with the federal administration and are waiting to hear back. But this will open, hopefully, an investigation into the policies in Washington state that can ensure that all women in Washington get fair opportunities to compete in sports.
Obviously, Donald Trump signed an executive order back in February. It was one of the most amazing experiences. I got to be there as he signed this. So special because there were all these young girls, like I'm talking 7, 8-year-old girls surrounding him as he signed this. It was a really beautiful visual to see. But I don't think a lot of people, your common sense everyday American, maybe they don't understand what this executive order necessarily means, especially in terms of longevity. So how is the state of Washington able to do this when there is federal law, Title IX, and when Donald Trump signed this executive order just a few months ago?
Well, the critical law here is Title IX. It's the law that years and years ago set out women's sports as separate, allowing equal opportunities for women to gain in athletics. And it was an important law that was upheld, separating sports by sex for years and years and years, until most recently. What happened with the executive order is that the president said, we're going to affirm Title IX. We're going to enforce Title IX the way that it was intended, to separate sports, to allow women to have equal opportunities in athletics. And by doing that, the order states out his policy and instructs his various agencies to begin investigating and enforcing Title IX in the way that it was intended. So coming to Washington state, what's happened is Washington state saw that executive order. They have policies that they arrange their sports based on gender identity rather than sex. And they said publicly, we're not going to change. We're going to continue to separate sports by gender identity, no matter what federal law says or what the government says. And that opens up the opportunity for the federal administration to come in and investigate and to try to bring Washington in line with federal law, which it should be.
Absolutely. And we've seen, pretty much everyone has seen the interaction between Governor Mills of Maine and Donald Trump and what I think she believed to be this mic drop moment where she was like, I'll see you in court. Well, the Department of Justice ended up getting involved. And now I think they've issued warnings to California, to other states as well. I know Minnesota was a priority of theirs. So it is so good that you guys are putting Washington, I know they're following along. I know they know what's going on. But to now give them an outlet to really do something, it's just incredible. So Soleil, once you filed this complaint, how has your school or your peers or really your teammates, how have they responded to your involvement in this?
Everyone is so supportive. My relay team, I'm a run on the 4x1, the 4x2, and the 4x4. All of us wear Title IX shirts. We are all very supportive. The parents all have shirts that are Title IX, Save Women's Sports. Everyone is so supportive of it. And I think just from watching one of our teammates have to go through the same thing last year and to now having someone that is going against it and saying this isn't right is just opening a door for them that they didn't know was there. And everyone is following how everything's playing out and just they're so supportive.
Yeah, that's incredible. And it's important to remember, this isn't Texas or Tennessee or Florida. This is in Washington state, which is historically known to be a bastion of liberalism, if you will. So that's pretty remarkable to feel that support and to have that sense of unity, especially among your teammates. That's pretty special. Do you feel like your all's voices as women, as female athletes, do you feel like you've been heard in this debate, or do you feel largely ignored by those policymakers, or I guess state officials, both elected and unelected, in the state of Washington?
I feel like I'm using my voice as much as I can, and whether or not people want to listen, that's on them, but I'm going to continue to use my voice to try and be heard as much as I can, and it's being heard by people who want to listen, and ultimately those people are going to be the ones that make the decision to help save women's sports.
Yeah. And now, as Kate mentioned, we have the ability to. I think the previous 4 years, it really was like screaming into a void. You could talk about it all day long, but the reality, being totally transparent here, there wasn't a whole lot you could do. Most of these courts were not ruling in our favor. Of course, the Biden administration, they totally ignored us as women. So now we have the ability. So Kate, what can still be done federally as well as locally? And I guess maybe a better way to phrase it is like, what's best case scenario here? Is it the Department of Justice getting involved? Is it the Department of Education getting involved? Is this a case, some sort of Title IX case, going all the way to the Supreme Court?
I think any of those options would be better than where we're at. But having voices like Soleil's and yours, really speaking out, that's continuing to move things forward. And you see this, I think Soleil's story is an example. You see this crossing political lines as people start to recognize the impact on women from these kinds of policies. With the federal government behind us at this point on this issue, having the Department of Justice or the Department of Education step in on something like this through the Office of Civil Rights or elsewhere, that's important. There are also a number of cases still bubbling up through the courts. Including in Connecticut, there's been movement in Idaho, Minnesota, other states, those reaching a level where they're going to get Court of Appeals decisions or the Supreme Court weighing in. That could also be helpful. But I think the fastest approach here right now is what's going on with the federal government and their willingness to try to push states to follow federal law for the benefit of women.
Yeah. Soleil, I really just have a couple more things for you. If you could speak to education and sports officials directly, what would your message be?
I would say that they just need to recognize the fact that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. Men have the physical advantages over us. They have bigger hearts, like Kate said. They have more bone density. They don't have to take any testosterone suppressants. They just have an ultimate advantage, and they're taking away the right that we have to compete in our sport. And girls deserve equal opportunities to be able to experience how it feels to win, and how it feels to make a shot and a goal, how it feels to cross the finish line, how it feels to hit a home run. We all deserve that thrill of victory, and taking that away and taking away our right to Title IX is just, it was designed to provide women with equal opportunities, and if they can't recognize that we have every right to participate, then I don't know what to tell them. But we're going to continue to keep using our voices to be heard.
Man, hearing you say that and understanding how the other side, they call this progressive. They say, we're making progress, we're moving in the positive forward direction. But to hear what you just said, what they're doing is deeply regressive and utterly misogynistic, and the definition of sex-based discrimination. It is by no means progress what is happening to you and your teammates and other girls across the country. So what's next? What's the next hurdle you guys have to face? No pun intended, I guess. Or your next competition. What's the next thing on the docket here for you guys?
Well, in the legal case, we're waiting to hear back from the federal government. This takes some process for them to review complaints. But I know Soleil is also preparing for some upcoming races.
Yeah, I have the state meet next week. If we have a track meet this Friday, which is our district championships. And if we place top 2, then we get to go to state. And we are hoping to take all 3 of our relays to state. and one of those relays would be raced against that male athlete from the school in Spokane. But ultimately, we're just trying to get through this meet, and whatever happens at state happens. And I think that there will be a lot of people there who are supportive if the time comes that we do have to run against him. And we know that everyone has our backs, and just trying to get through this as much as we can that's all we have. Well, that's all we can do.
People definitely have your backs, not even just across the nation, across the world. I hope to see pictures of you and your relay in your Title IX shirts to be able to amplify and continue to spread the message. Mm-hmm. Last thing for you, and really for both of you, what's your message to those who say this isn't really an issue, or that only a few women are actually being affected by this, only a few men, a few boys are actually playing on the court or the field or the track with girls?
Not so. This is a widespread issue that's impacting women's sports across the country. That's why you've seen litigation in so many states and you've seen so many women speaking out. These male athletes can sweep titles across an entire state, take every state championship. It's damaging women's ability to compete in sports equally, to gain the benefits of athletics, and it's hurting girls like Soleil every day.
Yeah, and everyone says that it's just a couple athletes, there's just a few, but in reality it's happened. I've had to play soccer against a male athlete. He was a goalie, I play forward. It was hard because I'm scared that I'm going to get taken out or they have a physical advantage. So I've seen it in now multiple sports. I've seen it all over the country. I've seen it in every state. I've seen it at collegiate level and the adult level. I've seen it even in little kids sports. So it's just people saying that it's not a widespread thing. It is, and we need to recognize it is. Just like we need to recognize that we have every right to be here, and they need to realize that they need to protect Title IX, and that's ultimately all we're trying to do.
Absolutely. And even if it was an issue that wasn't affecting that many girls, I mean, how many girls is enough, right? Is it 5? Is it 10? Is there a finite number here of how many girls have to be injured or lose out on opportunities or be exploited in locker rooms before these, again, sports or policy officials begin to care? So again, Soleil and Kate, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for being willing to put yourself out there because you are, especially, look, I was just in Seattle a few weeks ago. And for the stance that I've taken, I had human feces thrown at me. So, it's not easy to do what you're doing, to say the controversial thing that men cannot become women and vice versa. But it is a necessary and a very urgent thing. So thank you, guys. We will certainly be following your meet this week and your meet next week, your state meet, and amplifying anywhere and everywhere we can, hopefully to get the Department of Education, the Office of Civil Rights to pay attention, to acknowledge what's happening, and to be on the right side of history here. So thank you both. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Games for Girls podcast. We're going to amplify on my personal page with OutKick. We'll talk about it, I'm sure, on the podcast again. What Soleil is set to face this week and next week at states where she will likely be competing against this boy. Tragic stuff, really. It's heartbreaking being able to, of course, after the recording ends, just talk to her personally and directly for, however many minutes, and to really hear her heart of how much she cares, how hard she works, and how all she wants is the bare minimum. Equal treatment, equal opportunities. Crazy that young girls have to explain this. Anyways, you can check us out at youtube.com/OutKick. That's where you'll find all things Gains for Girls. You can subscribe there. You never want to miss a moment of this show. You can comment there too, which is intriguing. It's engaging. You can talk to people who agree, who disagree. So encourage you to do that. And again, CozyEarth.com for the best loungewear, pajamas, and sheets you will ever be able to touch, to use, to sleep in. CozyEarth.com, code GAINS, GAINES, for 40% off. And we will see you guys again next week. everybody. Thank you so much for watching. The fight to save women's sports and restore common sense is far from over, and I continue the conversation every week. So make sure to catch more content over here and subscribe to OutKick so you don't miss a thing.